Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah, talking with my guest, Lori Spagna. I'm so super excited that she has joined me here. She's going to share a little bit about who she is and what she does and how she can help you. So Lori, take it away.
Well, first of all, Tammy, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you. And we had a nice little pre-chat. So it's lovely to connect with you.
Yes.
I guess I'll just say a few things for people who don't know me, a little bit about my background. And it's pretty out there. So it's definitely not like your mainstream storyline, but I out of college, spent 20 years in corporate America, driving the hamster wheel of life. And yes. I was really miserable. And in those 20 years, I developed all these unhealthy behavioral patterns to adjust: excessive smoking, excessive drinking, excessive spending, excessive eating, excessive weight issues, thyroid was off, hair was falling out, all kinds of health related issues. And I was going to doctors for help, and they were pumping me up in excessive amounts of pharmaceutical drugs, like ridiculous amounts. And eventually it all kind of hit for like 20 years, I was just living this life. I was miserable. I didn't know how to get out of it. I just felt stuck. I had so much credit card debt that I had, excessively spent. I just didn't know how to find my way out. And the voices of the people in my environment were all saying, stick it out, find a way.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah, it was just
you can do it. It's okay. We've all done it. You can do it.
Right. And then eventually what happened was my brother died of an unexpected drug overdose, and he became my angel, my wake up call. And I started to get messages from him from the non-physical. And prior to that, I didn't even know that I was capable, hearing or connecting with someone who had crossed over. So it took me about a year to work through that, to really, really realize I was not hearing things.
That was my question.
I was not just seeing things. I was not making it up. Right. I was not imagining it. Took a whole year of just unpacking that. And so eventually I kind of got the message, like, you're on the same trajectory that I was. Like, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to die and you're going to go nowhere. So I quit the 6-figure job that I was in. I took a big, huge leap of faith with my life. I ended up moving to Maui. My husband at the time divorced me, and I started my own business. It started as a dog training business. And very early on, I started hearing the dogs too. Like, I realized, it's not just like I can hear so-called dead people who aren't really dead. I use that word lightly because that's how he talked to me. My brother, he would say, it's your dead brother, Jeff. That's how he talked to me. So, because he was a comedian, he was really funny. And so he was saying, I'm not really dead, So then I realized I could hear the dogs, and the dogs would talk to me, and they'd say, hey, if you want to help us, you need to be able to help our humans, because we're here helping humans. So anyway, that's how it all started. But in the 2 years after I moved to Maui, on the heels of a divorce, after the crossing over of my brother, changing career, after I moved to Maui, for 2 years, I started getting into all the healing arts. I started practicing and developing my ability to communicate telepathically. I started working through like meditation and prayer and working with angelics and the higher realms. I started connecting with all of my psychic, intuitive gifts, empathic gifts and abilities. And within those 2 years, by the way, all of those things were gone that I talked about. I stopped smoking forever. I stopped drinking alcohol. Just was not part of my life anymore. I lost all the body weight, the excessive body weight. I gave up all the pharmaceutical drugs, never needed them again, not even over-the-counter drugs. I just don't need them anymore. And this is like 20 years ago, almost now. And
nice.
Like, all my gifts and abilities came out, and my talents, and they started developing from there. And of course, all of those things that you don't want in your life, and the so-called ways that we adapt in our life, the unhealthy behaviors that I talked about, all of that's gone. So anyway, I'll just wrap this part of my storyline up by saying, during those 2 years in Maui, not only was I getting into the healing arts, I was so blessed to be able to work with some really advanced teachers who helped me to wake up to the reality of the world that we live in, and the nature of this reality. And so what ended up happening with one of the teachers was I had what he calls a little death, or a near death experience. And I learned how to cultivate that for myself. So it wasn't in the physical world, like in a hospital, but it was what we call a little death, in the sense that the physicality of my reality was just dropped away.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing that happened, which is really out there, but while I was in Maui, was I had what we call a first contact experience, which some people would call an abduction experience, but I wouldn't call my experience that at all. So that's a whole lot to unpack. But after those 2 years, I moved back to the mainland, and I kind of like officially started developing a career. But really what it was just alignment with my service to God, source, creator, and to humanity and the animals, as a healer, as an intuitive, as what I call a multidimensional channel, because I'm able to bring forth information, energy, and consciousness from the non-physical realm, including angels and benevolence, ascended masters, divine beings, and even what we call star family races, who are just benevolent, friendly, loving, kind beings who live on other planets and star systems. So all of that and even more, for the animals. So that's what I do now. And that's how I serve and what I'm doing here.
And you're happy now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's what you just said, Tammy, is probably the most important takeaway, is that the whole reason we get aligned with our journey, our right divine alignment with source, creator, God, our own divinity, is because our lives improve dramatically. And that includes physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, like every layer. So I'm happy now is an understatement. I would say that I am so much more fulfilled. It's beyond happy. I am within myself so much more joyful, full of joy. And it's not 24/7 happiness, joy, fulfillment, but overall, I'm living a life of my dreams more and more all the time. Yeah.
That that right there. That was it. Living the life of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild, because that is what I say when people ask me how I'm doing, especially like when I go to work. They say, well, how you doing? I say, I'm living the dream. Mm. And now you truly are. So what can you say was the difference? I mean, what was the real, because I know you've thought about it, what was the real nuts and bolts of, why you had to make this leap, why you had to take the transition?
I'll say for me personally, two things are lighting up in response to your question. One is, I really know that it was my soul's agenda to come into this in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. And part of what I agreed to and contracted as a soul going through an evolutionary process and journey, and in part of my divine mission and purpose here for being a living being in the physical form. But the other thing I would say, what the biggest thing was, and this I would say for every person, because we all have different soul agendas and missions and purposes, even though at the same time we all share at least one unifying one, which is to wake up and remember who we are, which is love, aspect of source, creator, God, and love and joy in a body, sharing love and joy with others for that purpose alone. But that we share, right? But the second part, other than like the contract, the agreement, the soul mission part, the biggest leap, I think, for everybody, it is not only leaps in consciousness, the way we see, perceive, think, feel, emit, emote, everything, but also energetic vibrational shifts that we have to make, because everything we know is energetic frequency, vibration. And so at one vibration, we may think or perceive or see or believe something. And at another energetic vibration, we can think and see and perceive so much more greater, this and more. So as we make energetic shifts, And I think that's the biggest challenge for humanity right now, in a sense, is that everybody is being invited collectively and individually to begin to see and perceive and believe greater than, more than we have in the past. And so the limitations of our beliefs and what we believe and perceive and where we are energetically, those limitations are what we're kind of like busting through and moving beyond now. And some of us are really entrapped in some of that density, unfortunately, but we're collectively breaking through that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And it really is a real deal, because there's so many people, especially, and I talk about women just because I am a woman, you know, you're a woman, we know women, you know, but there are men also that are doing the same thing, but typically we work more with women just because women wake up easier, I think.
Well, there's a whole long story about that. You know, and that's a whole conversation in and of itself about the sacred divine. You know, the divine is reawakening, and it's not limited to gender. It's just that our old paradigm that we're breaking free from is a masculine based paradigm.
Yes.
And again, that is not a gender issue, although we can see it in the gender, that masculine paradigm is, you know, is based on doing and force and creation. There's a lot of secrecy, manipulation, coercion, control, and domination. That's that old paradigm, and that is masculine energy. It's not limited to gender. However, it's the new sacred feminine that's bringing through the divine, you know, it's helping to restore balance and harmony. And that sacred feminine tends to be more awakened at first within the feminine body, but not
always, not alone.
Yes. Not necessarily.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so regardless of our gender, we're all bringing that through. And this is why right now, part of why we're seeing a lot of gender like rebalancing, you know, it's like I, us, we, them, he, she, it. There are other reasons for that too, but that is part of what's kind of trying to restore harmony and balance within.
Yes.
In the recognition that we all have a feminine and a masculine, regardless of the vehicle of the gender of the body.
Yes. I truly believe that, because I know for me, I stayed in the masculine forever, for years. And that's always a challenge for me to, you know, to push that to the side and allow the feminine to step in, just because of how my life was. You know, I had to do it because I didn't have a husband that was provider. So, and he wasn't provider in any way. So like even decisions and everything, I had to make them. So I made them, and that's what I had to do. So it was easy for me to step into that, you know, because I was there, you know. And so now working through that and actually bringing forth the feminine so that, you know, I can experience the flow and all of that, that was a challenge for me. And I know that it is for a lot of women that have had to step into that role, you know.
Totally.
Go ahead.
And, you know, that's why, because that old paradigm is a patriarchal system. All of the energetics, and it's a hierarchical system based on patriarchy. And so we are restoring that divine feminine in each of us and reawakening it. And so that's what, you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. And so those of us who are, you know, in the female gender, who are reclaiming our divine femininity,
yes,
and reawakening, regardless what gender, because men are doing this too.
Yes,
we're working on it. And what you're describing is part of that process. And it's really beautiful, right?
It is. And I can see that you probably dealt with that as well, being in that, you know, that arena, because it affects a lot of women, especially because, you know, we're in those male dominated places, and we're, you know, we have to get our voice up in order to be heard. You know what I mean? And so we have to step into that. And I noticed that a lot of women are coming out of that now and actually moving to this place where they're, you know, trying to, I would say, entreat the sacred feminine. you know, because that really is what we're doing. It's like we're inviting her in and inviting her to come in and, you know, and show out and show up for us. So yeah, I love that. When you work with women in that area, because I know that a lot of women that probably were like you come to you, what is one of the first things that you work with them on?
Well, you know, everybody, in a sense, we're all sharing a collective experience, but everybody's so unique. So it's always about finding what's uniquely appropriate for each individual, whatever is their unique journey or path, and whatever their soul or divinity is calling for. So it just depends on every individual. Usually most people know, whether or not we realize it, most people know what's in our way. Whether it's a physical issue, like a health related challenge, whether it's a relationship issue, relationship type of issues, whether it's money or finance or abundance and prosperity of some materialism, whether it's our own mission, purpose, alignment with source or our source, our creator, or our divinity. It's usually like one of those four core areas, but whatever it is, we know what our issue is. The challenge for us is determining what is right solution, what is right alignment. And the way I go about it typically when I'm working with people, either in groups or individually, is finding what's at the root of it. Usually what's at the root of it is some kind of unclaimed gift that they're unaware of. So for example, if a person has a problem with their health, it's usually some unclaimed gift related to their own well-being, their own sense of worth or value, or their own needs.
So give us an example.
Well, okay, if we go to something like, for example, let's say it's let's say it's an issue of weight, body weight. Okay. So body weight, typically, if we search, it's usually related to a person feeling unsafe somehow. Either they were unloved or unsafe to express their needs, or they felt somehow abused, or physically or emotionally or mentally somehow attacked. So we want to search for the root of whatever that was so that they can resolve it. And a lot of times the root of it goes back to their lineage. Diabetes is a great example. Diabetes goes back to a feeling of usually feeling that sugar has power over people, that they don't know how to enjoy the sweetness of life.
Oh.
And they're out of balance with sweetness and enjoyment, because that's linked sometimes to sugar, sweets, desserts. But these are all unconscious things. We're not conscious of this stuff. It's always stored up somewhere in our unconscious. And very often, if it's a lineage thing linked to our ancestry, it could be linked to, you know, I'm so sorry. My puppy, Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Come here. What are you doing over there? All right, sorry, there, slight glitch. So usually, and if it's linked to if it's something that could be linked to the ancestral line, which is often the case, it'll be stored up in the DNA. So the DNA houses information and records through the lineages. So if a grandparent, for example, or somewhere in the ancestral lineage had some kind of belief, we'll stick with the concept of diabetes here for the moment, and we can stick to the weight issue. Somewhere along the lineage, someone believed that they, or perceived or had the experience that there's not enough sweetness and enjoyment in life, not enough time, especially let's say they were from the Great Depression, and their belief system, there's not enough time for sweetness, there's not enough time for enjoyment, I don't know how to enjoy life. They would have stored that information in the DNA as an ancestral record. And then the person passes from lifetime to lifetime through the generations, diabetes, because the gift of diabetes is to help someone to unlock and awaken the sweetness and the enjoyment of life. But because a person doesn't know that, and the healthcare system that we're currently working with doesn't teach us that, doesn't know that,
They don't
because
care.
they don't work. They only work on the physical level. They're not working on the emotional level, on the mental level. They're not working. They don't even believe in energy. Quantum physics does, but modern medicine doesn't.
Well, so they can't make any money off of that.
Right. Well, that's a separate issue, right? but so, you know, in that example, now if we were to go to the weight example, same thing. It could come from a generations way back where, let's say there was a woman who felt unsafe in your history, and she felt that she was maybe not protected and needed protection. And maybe she might have even, maybe somewhere in that lineage, there was a storyline that she's waiting on someone or something to come and protect her, maybe a man, just using an example, right? But this information would be stored in the DNA and passed down. And then here comes a person, you or me, in this lifetime, and has absolutely no idea why we can't drop the pounds. No matter what we do. It's because there's a gift or multiple gifts in the records of the DNA that can be accessed. The gifts of consciousness, like the gift is, I'm safe. I know how to be safe. I don't have to wait for anything. Everything is here for me right now. Everything is available to me. These are just some examples of gifts that could be awakened for the person who does the exploration into their own unconscious and is willing to look at their own records in the DNA. By the way, that information is also stored in what we call the Akashic records, which are non-physical records, whereas the DNA is more physical, but we can access it all through our consciousness. So this is the long exaggerated story of, you know, what do I go for? I just ask the person, like, what are they working on right now? What's most important to them to address and resolve? And then we go sort of searching with the help of our divinity, because we're asking source and our own higher selves, our own eternal ever beings to help us, and angels help us, guide us, lead us, help us to see and perceive and realize what we don't know or aren't aware of, so that we can uncover this and resolve these issues, so that we can live, bring back to what we said, a fulfilled life. And according to our divine alignment and our divine purpose of being here, so that we can have our ideal states of health and well-being, so that we can live in the abundance of sources eternally, infinitely abundant. But we're operating from these perspectives and energetics where that's not available to us, or where we're limited. Again, an area where we're breaking free, so that we can live our best lives.
See, that's what's up. So let's talk about where you came from. Did you come from a religious background? Where did you grow up, you know, going to church, or how did that affect when you decided, when you had this awakening and this transition? Where was that on the spectrum of it?
Well, first I want to tell you my last name, and one of the things I love playing with is namology. I love namology. And my last name, Spagna, in wordplay, could easily translate to pagans. And a pagan means one who does not believe in traditional religion, right? Or who rejects traditional mainstream religious approaches. So I would say that is true of my lineage, my family dynamic. Although I grew up in the Catholic faith, I was baptized. I was, I went to Catholic school, CCD it was called. I went to church until I was 13. I had what they do. I did communion, and then you have what comes after that? After confirmation. And then after that, my parents said, you can choose. But I just, right, now you can choose. But this is the thing, is we're not given permission in our society to choose our faith.
Right.
We're born into it. And I think that was a big thing for me. That was one gift that I think my parents did give me, was they said, okay, this is what you were born into. Now that you become an adult in the eyes of the church, you can choose. And that is what I did. And I think my family they're not very religious, and they're not very spiritual, but they're not completely devoid of it either.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I always love to ask people that question in this arena, because it's usually people that have family that are super religious and all in, or the people that are not religious at all. And then I like to see how they went about this, because it depends on, what I've been noticing when I talk to people is it depends on how you were raised, how you transition.
Yes.
How easy it is for you to transition, or how many things you have to unlearn.
Yes, it's so true. Tammy, I love that you said that about unlearning, because most of us don't realize that our religious indoctrination has taught us certain things that we may believe, which may be harming or may be harmful or detrimental to us. For example, there's a lot of things like guilt and shame that are often embedded into some of the organized religion.
Yes, lots of it.
And that really does not serve us. Oh, you still there?
It doesn't.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. So we need to clear that out. And all that, again, is energetics. Another idea is that, that we're, and I obviously, we know which religion this is, that we're sinners and that we've done wrongdoing. We are not sinners. We are all children of God. We make mistakes. But this word, so that embeds into us wrongness. And then we walk around with these belief systems and this energy of being wrong. Or that someone has wronged us. Then another one is like this idea that we have to be like humble, which isn't a wrongness in and of itself either. Like, it's a beautiful virtue to walk through life with humility. But not when humility is intertangled with worthlessness.
Yes.
Which sometimes that happens.
Yes.
Because we're not worthless. Right. We have to. So these are all things we have to clear out and resolve. And give one more example, which this is really pretty out there, but if you're willing to take a leap.
Yes, absolutely.
So most of us who have ever, I think this is the whole of humanity, but I can't necessarily say it is, but who have ever been involved in any kind of religion in any lifetime, which you have to be willing to go to that, there's other lifetimes, but they could be called parallel realities in quantum physics, where we believed or perceived that someone was hung on a cross for us. And I'm not negating that necessarily, but what I'm saying is we have what's called crucifixion implants. This is very unconscious to us. We don't know about this. And what these do is they sort of bind us at the wrists, which takes away our ability to consciously create our reality. They bind us at the crown, which takes away our ability to connect telepathically and empathically with our source of creation, infinite knowing, infinite wisdom, infinite consciousness. And then we're bound at the feet, which takes us away from our connection to our divine Mother Earth, Gaia. So her name is Gaia Sophia. She doesn't call herself Earth. So, and we don't know this stuff, but this, what we call a crucifixion implant, has happened to us from lifetimes to lifetime. And it starts making life difficult because we believe we're separate from Creator. And we believe that there's this kind of Santa Claus in the sky that's somehow separate from us. And we don't realize our ability to create our lives as creator beings, creating our lives. Yes. And we don't realize that we have the ability to heal ourselves out in nature. Yes. That we are connected to this divine mother and how much this connection matters. And as we open this, we call this a core pillar. Our core pillar, connection to source, and then all the energy centers of the body, which we could refer to as our energy centers or our meridians or our chakras. The languaging almost in this, for this purpose, is irrelevant, but the core pillar gets cleared. And then our base chakra, which opens up to our connection to the earth and the divine. This is what we end up getting clearing on, and we end up opening our whole channel. We move out of just thinking through our left brain. Instead, we have a full brain. We're using way more than 10% of our brain, which is the average human in that old paradigm is only using 10%. But when we start doing this, we have unlimited potential. Our heart center opens. We become more loving, caring, and compassionate, empathic, and sensitive to ourselves and to others. And forgiveness is just like not even required, because we understand, we're so much more understanding and forgiving. And then we also access and open up both the brain matter in the heart. There literally is brain matter in there. We start developing in brain matter in the gut, which we literally do have brain matter in there, which all of that is being shut down by big pharmaceutical drugs and things being either injected or taken into the body, or however, whether it's food or whatever else, that stuff is shutting us down. And it does unfortunately shut off, and it sort of like interferes with the DNA, right? We know there's some DNA inhibitors. So what I'm saying, and I realize I'm being very elaborate, but is as we open up our divine connection and all of these dormant faculties begin to come online, we recognize that we are the solutions to our reality. We all have the solutions to Earth's problems, challenges, to our own challenges and problems, and we are solutions and service and support to one another. We all have this within us.
Yes.
But anyway, I got off on that tangent from the whole thing about the crucifixion implants that have been keeping us blocked, that we just don't know. We haven't.
That's necessary information, because people don't know it.
Yes.
People don't have it. That was the first time I heard of that. That's why I was writing it down.
It is very unknown. But you know what? What's so beautiful about it? These crucifixion implants, even though they are and have been affecting us for like lifetimes, they can be very easily cleared out of the DNA and out of the body. And when they are, they really open up so much for us, as I was saying. And it's not impossible, but you do, this is the work of healers who are aware of this. And if we go back to part of where you had asked a question much earlier, like, what do you think the pivotal thing is? Or some question like that. Mm-hmm. This is what I mean. Energy work is one of the most pivotal, most important things we can do, because it's the energy of a vibration that can clear the energy of a denser or heavier vibration. So for example, if there's a crucifixion implant or any other unconscious programming, belief system, thought, idea, judgments, opinions, etc., whatever it is, what will clear and resolve that has to come from a higher, pure energetic frequency. And typically, an excellent healer is always going to be helping or facilitating that for someone whose density might be, and there's not that one is better or worse, just one is done the clearing and is holding a frequency of energy that can help clear it for another. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wrap this up.
It's a lot to take in.
I know, it's so good. I'm like, I hate to do it, but I know we have to get off here. So let the people know, if you're filling for a program or anything like that, you can share that, and then share with people how they can connect with you.
Yeah, I would love that. So my website is LoriSpagna.com. It's LoriSpagna. For anyone who wants to sort of sample what a DNA activation, I do DNA activations typically 4 times a year at specific times of the year. And this is where we unlock and awaken this stuff. But you can get a sample one at LoriSpagna.com/free gifts /DNA. And you can experience a DNA activation. It's short and generic, but it's a nice first time experience. And then for people who want to learn more about just how to access and awaken their own psychic gifts and their own ability to telepathically communicate with animals and with others, they can go to LoriSpagna.com/free gifts /animals. There's a lot of other great free gifts there. And the other thing I would love to refer people to, since the time that we're living in, on my YouTube channel is a gifted clearing. In our DNA, we have what's called codes of immunity and imperviousness. It's real, but they have to be awakened. And they make us, when they're activated and awakened, immune and impervious to any and every virus. any and every virus. We can
I
be
love that.
100% immune and impervious to. That doesn't mean we have to start doing anything unhealthy, or it just means we get to walk around life knowing and having the knowing that we're safe, immune, and impervious. And that's free at my YouTube channel. So
awesome.
a 20-minute, really easy activation. And anyone who wants to do that, so they just go to YouTube, search my name, Lori Spagna, and look for the activation on codes of immunity and imperviousness. There's tons of other stuff there too for people and animals. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so
thank you
grateful.
so much for having me.
Oh, yes. It's been a blast. It actually exceeded my expectations.
Oh, I'm so glad. Can I give you one other thing just from namology? That's a class I have coming up on the website too, by the way. But your name in namology, Tammy, means one who is meant to be triumphant through discovery of the self. Yeah. So you get to carry that with you. You are meant to be triumphant in this lifetime. And whether or not, like, just look at some famous names. Tony Robbins, Trump. You might not like Trump, and that's not a statement of that, but these are people who have been very triumphant in their lives. And
well, you know, I was named after Tammy Terrell.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Like down to my spelling and everything. So yeah.
All right. Well, so now I just wanted to leave you with that gift, because namology is so fun.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna put that up. I'm gonna make me a Canva thing, and I'm gonna put that up. All right. So this has been such a blast. I have enjoyed you so much, Lori Spagna. And I hope that you guys have heard what she said and heard her heart, because this was a phenomenal experience that we've had today with Lori, but she shared some deep stuff. So please make sure that you go to her YouTube channel and get that clearing, because we all need that to make sure that we are covered from any virus. So that's something that I'm going to do as well. So again, thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah, and I truly appreciate it. So wherever you are listening to this or watching it, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. If you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're watching this on Mupo TV, welcome. So again, thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. Bye now.
Thanks, Tammy.